Hey, She That listeners, find us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Every subscribe, like, and follow goes a long way, and I can't thank you all enough for your support. And with that, let's get into today's episode. Hey, everybody, welcome back to She That. It's your host, Alexandra. We're going to get into a solo episode about the hidden game of volleyball and sports. There's always politics, power dynamics, positions, relationships, perception that can occur in any sport that you play. I've seen so many girls impacted one way or another. I'm going to share some stories that I've experienced. I feel like everybody experiences, but nobody really talks about in a public dynamic. It's more behind the scenes. What is happening in the team group chats, your car rides home, the coaches' offices. If you've ever thought to yourself why somebody might be starting over you, even though you know you have better skill set or better attitude, or if you've ever felt your stomach drop when you've seen certain things that happen with your teammates or noticing that certain players can get away with pretty much anything, and then others receive a different level of criticism or feedback. Whenever we're playing a sport, obviously we're focusing on what we're doing wrong. And most of the time it's skills. We're making mistakes. We're wondering why somebody's playing over us from a skill perspective. But it did take me a while. Once you take a step back out of the sport, I have had a few instances where I realized volleyball wasn't really just about who is the best player. I have been on teams where I wasn't directly impacted, but have noticed certain girls being treated differently. Certain girls would get yelled at more. I have a lot of friends who have various stories, whether they were teammates with the coach's daughter or really negatively impacted by their coach compared to others. I remember one time I was on a team with a coach's daughter, and for me, it didn't really seem like there was anything bias going on. I had the privilege of not being impacted to even think in the direction that my coach could have been favoriting her daughter. Given that, like if I was on the other side of it, if I was the one sitting on the bench where I had more time to really analyze the dynamics going on, maybe I would have had a different perspective. But I feel like there are easy things to blame in situations like that is when you really start to realize from a mental perspective that there is a whole invisible game happening off the court. And every team has that unspoken hierarchy. So you've got your starters who could literally probably skip practice and still start, right? You have the bench players who maybe work 5 times as hard for half the recognition. Some coaches I have tended to notice if they're not being extremely genuine, they do have an inner circle of who gets pulled aside for special feedback, who's asked to stay after for practice, while everybody else gets the group corrections, right? And here's the thing that nobody prepares you for. You might be friends and like real friends with the girl who's your direct competition, and you're supposed to root for each other. But if your best friend plays the same position as you, of course, that's going to start impacting you both. And that's very hard to navigate. I know many people will say, I want my friend to succeed. I want my friend to have the playing time. But deep down, I feel like 99% of the time, we also want that for ourselves. Of course, we want to support our friends. Of course, we want to support all of our teammates. But when it comes to bettering you, it's a totally different mental game. There's also parent influence that nobody really acknowledges. There's parents who are buddy buddy with the coaches. Their kids might mysteriously move from the bench to the court more than they used to. There's a lot of people always directly involved within this sport. And that's when things can get tricky if a coach isn't leading with genuine intentions. And also if the players and parents aren't leading with genuine intentions. We all see this stuff happening one way or another. And the worst part is when you're not the favorite, and we all know or have been on a team in our sports career where you know who is more liked or not liked if the coach is leading that way, you do start to question everything. Obviously, there's 6 people on the court, but when it comes to a whole team, the whole team can't be on the court at one time. And that's when you really have to recognize what your role is when you're not on the court. As a middle hitter, I knew I wasn't going to play all the way around all the time. So what was my role when I was off the court and my competitors were on the court? It's easy to think, am I actually not good enough? It lasts way longer than your volleyball career. We're always impacted by the negative things that we're told. It doesn't mean that you can't take criticism. I don't think anybody loves criticism and feedback. Obviously, we all probably know that nobody's perfect and we can improve, but it sticks with you. I remember many times where I've sat in my car after practice. I made a list of everything I did versus what the starters did the years I didn't play. I tried to find logic in illogical situations sometimes. And I've noticed my friends doing the same, where after the fact, the coach might actually tell them that they were capable of doing more than what the coach allowed that year. When it comes to club sports, especially, there's not only your coach dynamics, but also the owners' dynamics. And those are the ones who are actually getting the money and bringing players. School season has very different dynamics. Club season, when the parents are paying for their kids to play a sport, it's just different. Depending on the club, it does change the dynamic of how they handle players with bad attitudes. I have coached in many different dynamics. I've coached for my own team. I've coached with other coaches, and I was co-coaching with a mom that had her daughter on the varsity team. Now, mind you, her daughter would have had the same volleyball career path, whether she was a coach or not. Throughout the entire season, that was always a talking point for all of the girls. Other parents assumed that her daughter was getting special treatment. Here's what the girls and the parents didn't see. Her mom was actually harder on her than the rest of the team. A very interesting dynamic is benching your own child due to their mistakes equivalently as others. I remember having to sometimes step in and be that unbiased person, right? If you are a good coach and you do have a kid on your team, which, mind you, many parents coach their kids' teams. Like, all of these teams, soccer, softball, baseball, basketball, they all need coaches. And if a parent or teacher is willing to step up, that's what they're going to take. Her daughter was the tallest on the team. Her daughter was probably the strongest on the team. And her daughter was also amazing with the mental attitude. She worked so hard. And a lot of people trying to take that away. I know of other situations where parents have coached their kids and the favoritism is so obvious, right? External of what your kid is doing on the team, we know when a coach is favoriting a girl, whether it's their kid or not. So it made me really sad when I saw her being so impacted by her teammates and the parents because it was not her fault. It wasn't her mom's fault. It's one of those things where the perception of the situation was destroying her as an athlete. And even though the reality was opposite for that specific situation, mind you, I know there's others that are not that lucky. I've also had another time where I coached at a club for a national team. We had amazing girls on this team. All of them could have played college one level or another. They were so determined. They were great teammates. Sure, sometimes we had to put a fire under their butts, but they were truly a great group. And I felt so privileged and honored to be part of that club, be a part of that team and have an impact on their volleyball career. Throughout the season, there was always the same girl that felt entitled and felt like no matter her attitude, she deserved all the playing time. No matter the playing time, she was going to have a bad attitude. And when it comes to club versus high school, where you don't really have the high school dynamics, the club dynamics is you're getting paid the more girls you have on a team. I remember vividly being me as a coach, which I have thick skin. Like, as a coach, I'm really not going to let a high schooler, no offense, negatively impact my mental health or even take up time in my brain. But there was this girl, she was awful to her teammates. She wouldn't cheer for anybody. She would pout on the bench. Imagine being 18 years old and pouting. She would say nasty things. And believe it or not, she played all the time. Once we started noticing the attitude and the impact on other girls, she was literally bullying other girls. Okay. There's a line where sure you're tough, you're on the court, you're playing a sport, you're in the zone. But when it gets to bullying, that's my line, just based on my experience and my life in any sport. All of you are an equivalent on that court. I don't care how good you are. I don't care where you come from. I don't care your experience or history with the club or the school. You have no right to treat others lesser because you expect playing time or you expect other people in certain positions. We were at a tournament and we made a decision, and that was to pull her from playing. Clearly, that wasn't going to go well. We knew it wasn't going to go well. If we wanted to be pushovers, we would have left her in, had her way, bring down the whole team. Seriously, she brought down every single person on that court. It just came to that point. That half of the match goes by. It wasn't even a full set. And of course, at the tournament, her mom's throwing a fit. She's throwing a fit. They're yelling at us across the gym. Other parents are looking like, oh my gosh, that's a little crazy. Because probably everybody on our team has had to sit on the bench at one point or another, depending on the team's needs. We brought the issue up to our club directors and they never did a thing about it. I will never forget not feeling backed. As a coach, you sacrifice a lot. You're on the court in the evenings, on the weekends. You're not with your family. You're helping other girls. You're being selfless. Yes, there's bad coaches out there, but most are leading with genuine intentions. And I will never forget how this club handled the situation by allowing this girl to bully. I don't know. I just seen all these sides of it. And I saw these other girls working hard. They might not have a smile every single day. We all go through stuff in life. Life is hard. But when it comes to treating others with respect, or even the tiniest bit of respect, it goes a long way. I have many examples. These are just a few that I've directly seen. I've seen other girls and friends directly impacted, and it's something that we need to talk about. So, when it comes to social media, nowadays people are so determined to hide behind a screen. There's something called max preps. I'm not sure how common it is nowadays. I'm going max preps. I would see all the rankings, all the standings. They would keep your direct stats from every game that you played, sometimes highlights. They came to your school and took pictures for their website or newsletter. And it almost became something that was like your goal. When you're seeing the stats of you and your whole team, whether it's high school or club, you're comparing maybe limited attempts to full game numbers just because you weren't given the amount of playing time. Maybe you're not even at the top because you had minimum plays to meet. And there's just so many different dynamics when it comes to comparison in a sport, especially when it's posted out there publicly. Social media, Instagram, recruiting pages shows their best moments, but you know the truth at the end of the day. You don't have to post yourself on social media to know that you're capable of being good enough for yourself or for your team to play in college. You were at the same tournaments. You saw maybe that one girl serve in the net 5 times, but then she's the number one player of the game. It's just hard. And I feel like when it comes to recruiting nowadays, too, a lot of people are very vocal on social media of where they're going on a visit, who reached out to them. I have one parent and her kids are out of college, her kids are older, and she still will post paragraphs of how amazing her kids are. I think it's so wonderful to be proud of your kids, right? Like we want to shout their successes. We want to reinforce the things that they do well. And we could shout it from the rooftops. I have a son. Every time he says a new word, he's only almost 17 months old. It's amazing. We're so happy. But I just could never imagine every single day posting on there all of his accomplishments because it's not even coming from him. It would be coming from me. It's really interesting when you see the parents that are really punting things out there and just trying to almost prove themselves through their kids. It's really bizarre. I mean, we all probably live through our kids one way or another, but they're their own independent person. And when parents start to get involved in your success is my happiness, that's when things really go wrong. And that happens a lot with social media. That goes for recruiting season, that goes for the comparison game, and it becomes 24/7. Like maybe before it used to end at practice, but now since there is the social media and phone dynamics, you're maybe lying in bed at 11 p.m. and scrolling through rankings or watching recruitment announcements. Social media is a highlight reel. You have highlights every single day of your life that you just don't justify as a win or a highlight. Mistakes disappear if you're a favorite of a team, but then become teaching moments if you're not. What does this mental aspect of sports do to us? What does it actually do to your brain? And that's where it can get damaging if you don't have the boundaries set in stone for yourself. You can start overanalyzing everything. A coach might say good job to you, but is it real or is it petty? You get subbed in. Is it because you earned it or is it because we're beating the team by 15 points already in the first set? Every interaction becomes loaded with a meaning that might actually not be there. It's just our anxiety telling us. It's easy for the self doubt to creep into everything. Like you start playing scared because one mistake might bench you while others get unlimited chances. And you lose that natural instinct because you're overthinking every touch, right? And when you're thinking about that, there's no way you're going to be successful on the court. You have no confidence from everybody surrounding you to succeed and excel. Am I setting her because she's in the best position or because the coach will be mad if I don't give the ball to her? Well, that comes with the exhaustion of pretending everything's fine. You're smiling in team photos, you're showing up to team dinners, you're probably miserable deep down, but cheering from the outside. And even when your parents ask how practice was and you say good because explaining everything that went on would take hours or you don't want to deal with it. There is gaslighting in the sport, whether it's intentional or not. And when you bring up concerns and hear that everyone earns their spot or attitude is everything, or my personal favorite, be patient, your time will come. Meanwhile, you're watching the younger players get opportunities that you never got. Your patience can run out eventually. But I'm here to tell you that every year, even if it's the same coach, I know sometimes it's so hard, but every year, every season, every new club season, school season, every dynamic, it can get better. I don't want to say stick through the toxicity or the chaos if there are a lot of politics going on with you and your team specifically. But I promise you, try a different club, try a different team. I think there's so many ways where we easily cut off a sport because of how we perceive our coaches or how we perceive our teammates. And really, the one person that is in control of how we handle all of it is ourselves. How do you survive this without losing your mind or your love for volleyball? Because quitting feels like you're letting everybody else win, and staying is probably killing you at the same time. Plenty of girls quit who didn't want to be on the team that they made. Plenty of girls stay who rode the bench the whole season. When it comes to sports, you need to find your worth outside of others' opinions. Keep a journal of your growth. So, not just about playing time, not about coaches' feedback. When you really are feeling negative in the environment that you are a part of in the sport, write down actual skills that you improve on. Did you pass better than last week? Did you finally get a jump serve consistently? Tangibly having evidence for yourself that nobody else's opinions will deter you from knowing what you deserve and where you're headed. Even building a highlight reel, ask your friends to film you during warmups or get clips from open gyms or create evidence that your ability exists outside of the politics and the toxic space that you're a part of. You exist as a player beyond the team's dysfunction. It's so important to find what you can control completely. Maybe it's your serve. Maybe it's your attitude. Maybe it's being the best teammate regardless of playing time. Pour yourself into that one thing so you have something to be proud of that nobody can take away. Yes, does this year maybe suck? Possibly. But does that mean next year won't be any better? No, it can easily be better if we allow it to be. It's really important to create boundaries with social media. So unfollow accounts that trigger your comparison. Don't check like max props or those sites. Your worth is not determined by someone else's Instagram announcement. And honestly, find the people who get it. Find your people, the other non-favorites, the bench players who work their butts off, but the ones who see what you see. You're not crazy. The politics can be real, and having people who validate that experience is really critical when going through it. It doesn't mean that you have to act on it. It doesn't mean that anything's going to change overnight, and it doesn't mean that your coach is all of a sudden going to see you how they should be seeing you. But remember, truly, coaches change, teams change, politics shift. The girl who's untouchable this season might be benched next year when a new coach comes in. I always feel like I had a good relationship with my coaches. I was always listening. I always felt like a decent teammate. I don't really remember getting into it with anybody or feeling jealous. If I wasn't the best on my team, let's say I was maybe the eighth best player on my volleyball team, those first six girls who are going to be on the court as starters, I'm pushing them to get better or else they know I'm coming in. I need to change the dynamics of sports in general. Yes, for volleyball, can only six players be on a court? Yeah, that's a fact. Does that mean only six players play during a game? No. When you do start identifying your role in your team, and maybe you aren't a starter, you are pushing those starters to continue to get better because they're fighting to keep their spot. And I actually think that is one of the biggest compliments you can ever get. If you are that catalyst to make others work harder, you're doing more than they could ever do for their team. I know this episode could feel heavy. It really isn't talked about enough. Politics can be so real. The comparison game is toxic in any sport, outside of sports. Social media makes everything worse. Don't get me wrong, there's amazing examples of it, like right now where I can reach you. Trust your intuition. That doesn't mean always act immediately off of emotion or intuition, but you're not being dramatic and you're definitely not alone as you go through this. I'm sure you're in your first few weeks of practices and you're starting to figure out the team and the coach dynamics and who is fulfilling what roles. But whether you feel like you're the favorite, whether you're a bench warmer or somewhere in between, we're all navigating the hidden game as a player, as a coach, and as a parent. It shapes us in ways that we don't even realize until years later. Your value as a player and a person isn't determined by some coach's bias or the amount of Instagram likes you have or the max props rankings. The game on the court ends, but how you handle the invisible game, that builds your character that lasts forever. Keep pushing through the sport you love and maybe find a different way to keep it in your life. Don't allow somebody to take the sport from you. The game is rigged sometimes. It's hard to navigate when you have friends that see one perspective and maybe you see a different one. I highly recommend to never allow the coaching dynamics of a team impact your friendship. That is not what you signed up for when playing the sport that you love. There have been many times where I've seen either girls pitted against each other, girls disagreeing with how the coach handles things. And at the end of the day, it's up to the coach really what happens on the team. Does that mean you have to play on that team? No. But I just hate to see how focused sometimes we are on our own issues versus looking at the bigger picture. Just because you didn't make a certain team this year does not mean you're not capable of doing that next year. Keep fighting for what you believe in. Don't allow the hidden game of sport to deter you from what you love and what drives you. Don't let somebody take your passion away. And also, don't even give them the fact that they ruined it for you. But just know if you feel alone this season, you're not alone. She Ace that is always here for you. As a parent, as a player, as a coach, every role that comes into the sport has pros and cons. They all have different consequences. And I don't always think there's a perfect answer. Your support system and your confidence in who you are is the key to unlocking any possible politics going on. Change the dynamic if you have to, leave that club if you have to. And I promise you, there's brighter days ahead. Thank you all for joining. She Aced That this week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.